So if you've been paying attention to the news over the last couple of days, especially yesterday and today, you'd have noticed that crude oil prices have basically crashed even further than they have been over the last month or so. And so what you see in front of you right now is is the price and a chart for the NYMEX crude oil WTI crude price, which is currently at 11.82 USD. It's down about 41, 42% today. And take a look at this chart. So now we'll just look at a 1 month chart. This is what's happened in 1 month. So it's gone from about 30 odd to about 10. But what I want to talk about is a little bit of a broader picture, because um, that throws up a couple of investment stories for long-term investors. So if I just zoom out a little bit and look at the 1 year chart, now this is where it really fell off a cliff. So in this range, which is about the in end of December 2019, is it really let go. So it fell from above $60 to what it currently is at about 10. And this really tells you that, especially now, let's take a look at the 10-year chart. It tells you that this move has oil has been seeing a secular decline for about a long time now. And when you take the last 1 month's move into consideration, it really puts it into perspective. So even if you're just taken, the end of December 2019 as your end date, you still had a drop from 90 odd to to 60 odd. So that's quite a big drop in any case. So it's not just shorter movements and volatility being created by coronavirus and OPEC and other events, but it has, as an industry, it has seen a decline over a 10-year period. Now, as an investor, that has a couple of consequences. So I want to show you one more chart. Look at the TSX oil and gas index. So this is an index made up of companies on the TSX composite that are in the resource oil and gas sector. Now, this is a 10-year chart for the TSX oil and gas index. Now, if you're an investor in the Canadian marketplace, this is quite worrying, because Canada is quite heavily concentrated on energy resources, oil and gas. After financials, it's the second heaviest weight on the TSX. And so if you look at the 10-year move, it's gone from highs of 386 or so to about 105, where we are right now. If you take a look at the 5-year chart, you can see it's pretty bad as well. 1 year. Right, but I want to stick to the 10 years, because these are long-term investment stories we're talking about. So you can expect that when crude prices fall, the TSX oil and gas index would also show a somewhat similar decline, at least in the same direction, if not to the same percentage. Right? So that shows us that oil is falling and oil and gas companies are falling. Now take a look at the upside, or the flip side of that story. Just as we've had climate change becoming more and more important, and renewable energy and clean energy becoming increasingly important. Now this is a 10-year chart of the TSX Renewable and Clean Tech Index, and this is completely opposite of what we saw with the oil and gas index. So this has gone from 90 odd to about highs of 170 or so a couple of months ago, and now it's trading at about 140, 150. So a couple of takeaways from this for investors in Canada is, one, Canada will be affected by the oil and gas situation, and because it's so heavily reliant on oil and gas in its economy, um, you need to reevaluate whether you're too heavy on just Canada in your investments. And this is something that a lot of people who get their investment advice from, let's say, banks, have to deal with, because the banks will usually invest you in a lot of Canadian, because for some reason they think it's safer. It's actually just a home country bias. So one is, for a long-term investor, figure out whether you have adequate exposure to non-Canadian markets, because that's essential. And the second is, do you have exposure to clean tech companies? And if so, then in what, how much, and in what way? Because there are ways in which you can get exposure to that. So I wanted to zoom out a little bit for this video and talk about the larger investment stories for Canadian investors, given the crude oil volatility that we've been seeing so far. So that's it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.